I'm so excited to teach you how to edit videos with Adobe Premiere Pro. I've just launched a brand new Adobe Premiere Pro Masterclass taught with the latest version of Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud, and I'm giving you an hour of the content from this premium course. So you can dive in through the rest of this video and watch the first hour of lessons. If you're serious though and you just want to dive right into the full course, click on the link below in the description and enroll now. There's a great discount for those of you watching this video to enroll. I do want to really quickly mention though that throughout this first hour of content, I will mention practice exercises and video clips for download that you can follow along with while you're learning. That's only available in the premium course. So if you're interested in following along, downloading all the practice files, you'll have to enroll in the full course, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn just by watching this video. So let's get straight to it and start learning how to edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. Let's go ahead and open Premiere Pro. When you open Premiere Pro, you'll see a screen like this. Now, I have a bunch of projects that I've worked on already. So you can see here the names of the projects that I've been working on. You won't have that if you're opening up Premiere Pro for the very first time. To start a new project, we're going to click this New Project button. But know that if you've recently worked on a project or you want to open a project that you have in your files or on an external hard drive, you can click this Open Project button and then find it from your list of files. You could even just double click that project file from your documents or Finder. I'm going to click New Project. That's going to open up the New Project panel. At the top, we're going to name this project. We'll call this Premiere Pro Course, and then you choose where you want to save it. There's a drop-down menu for some popular locations, or you can click Browse and save it wherever you want. I'm going to save it into the class folder for Adobe Premiere Pro. I'll select Choose for that folder. Then we have some other options to take care of. Depending on how fast your computer is, choose that GPU acceleration option if you have it. If not, it's okay. You might just have a little bit of issues if you're trying to edit big, large 4K footage. For video display format, I choose timecode. You might want to use feet or frames if you're editing an actual film that was shot on film, but for most digital projects, timecode is good. Display format, audio samples is good. Capture format, we're not going to be capturing anything via Adobe Premiere Pro. This is if you had a camera or a deck plugged into your computer and you wanted to capture footage from a tape. For scratch disk, this is important though. So for me, I typically save all of this same as project. What this means is the video, the renders, the previews, these are files that Adobe Premiere Pro creates when you start a project, when you add effects, when you make changes, when you auto save your project. I like all of those files saving to where my actual project is. I don't want it on some back library of the computer. I want it easily accessible. So I always choose same as project for these. When you're happy with your settings, with the name and with the location, just click OK. And then Adobe Premiere Pro will open up. Now this is probably confusing if you've never opened up Adobe Premiere Pro. So in the rest of this lesson, we're going to learn what these main windows or panels are. We're going to learn how to customize the view so that yours looks like this if your window doesn't look like this, which it might not. One quick way to get your window or your program to look like mine is to go up to Window, Workspaces, Editing. That's the workspace we're going to start out with. Then we're going to learn how to customize it. To understand what all these panels are, I'm going to open up the project we'll be working on for this course, which is this Anthony Carbajal short documentary. I'm actually going to start in the bottom left with our project panel. So all of these windows have panels, some of them have tabs with other panels behind them. So see here, we have project in the front. Behind that is the effects. And if we click on the effects panel pops up. The project panel is basically your documents. It's your organization panel. It's where you import files. It's where you create new files like titles or graphics. And it's where you keep everything organized. Behind it, we saw this is the effects tab, and this is where we have all of our video effects, audio effects, and transitions. Right to the right of the project and the effects panel is this toolbar. This includes all the tools that you have available for editing your footage on the timeline, which is over here to the right. This is the timeline. This might seem very confusing to you, and I wouldn't be surprised, so don't get too worried. You will learn how to do all of this. Just know that on the top of the timeline, starting from V1, V2, V3, V4, you might not have these many layers when you open up Premiere Pro. These are all video tracks. Below, on the bottom half, A1, A2, these are audio tracks. You can adjust the size of the track and really any panel by hovering over the line on the edge of the panel or the track and clicking and dragging. You can see me doing that right here with this panel. So all of these things I can make smaller so you can see all the 3 audio tracks, and there's actually 9 video tracks that we're using. That's a lot. And it goes from 0 seconds to 1 minute. And you can see the seconds and the milliseconds right here. Over on the right are our audio monitor. So if I play through this, I'm just going to turn the audio off, but if I play through it, you can see the audio levels bouncing up. So this is a good audio monitor to use. This also brings us to the program monitor up here. As I play through this, this is the final product, or at least the product we're working on down here. So everything we add to, and you can see Anthony being funny right here for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, threw on a bikini. He's a really out there, extroverted guy. I thought it would be funny, and we're gonna learn more about his story and what this project is all about throughout these lessons. So I don't want to give everything away yet, but just know he's a very extroverted, funny guy. So this, you can see we've added all kinds of things. We've added graphics, we've added transitions, we've added motion to photos, we've added, you can't tell, but we've added color correction, adjustment layers, titles, so many things to this track. And that's what all these different blocks are. Video tracks, graphics, titles, color correction layers. Don't worry, we'll learn all of it. And up here in the program monitor, that's where you see what's happening on your timeline. There's these buttons down here that allow you to control playing the video track. Pressing spacebar allows you to play or stop, or you can press these buttons too. And realize that I'm just skimming over a lot of these buttons. There's so many buttons that I'm not explaining right now. And I had taught a Premiere Pro course before where I tried to explain every button as I went through everything. That doesn't work that well. There is just too much going on. And so with this class, we're going to learn as we actually create and as we go on. If you have any questions about any of the content in this course, head over to the Q&A tab. First, search and see if anyone else has asked that same question, or if they haven't, ask a new question by clicking the Ask New Question button, typing in your question title, and then describing what issue or what you're trying to figure out. If it's something very specific about what you're trying to do with your project, it always helps if you post a screenshot of your Premiere Pro screen so I can see what's going on. Anyway, so this is the program monitor up here. And up here on the left, we have our source, effects controls, and audio track mixer. And you might not have audio track mixer, but I'll show you how to open those panels and close panels in just a sec. The source monitor is where you preview your clips. So down here, we have our folders of videos. If I open up our interview folder, I double click our first clip, and then it opens up into our source monitor. If I open up our music folder and open up a music clip, our music waveform clip pops up, open up here so we can check it out. Effects controls, this is where we actually change how effects look or the settings of an effect. So for example, I'm going to click this adjustment layer, or really any of these layers. So we have a video layer, and you can see when I click on that, you see a motion, opacity, time remapping, all these tabs open up. Some of these come included with every layer that you put on your timeline. Something like the lumetri color effect, that's something that I added afterwards. That's an effect down here in the effects panel that we added. We'll learn how to do that in this course. And then the last one is the audio track mixer. You might not have this open, and if you don't have it open, let me show you how to do that. But first, let me close it. And you can close any of these panels by right-clicking and choosing Close Panel. So if you don't have the audio track mixer open, go up to Window and click the audio track mixer right here. And that pops open audio track mixer. Now it might not have opened it up right here in this source monitor panel up here in the top left. So to customize your space, let's go back to our other project. So here we're in our other project. It still has the audio track mixer open. Say we want to move this audio track mixer down below our project panel, or in this panel behind effects. We can click any of these panels, drag it around, and move it. And you can see as I move it, different panels get highlighted. If I want to just add it right into this panel, just drag it into the middle and let go. You can see that it drags it into this panel. If I want, I can actually add it to the top and add a completely new panel, or the right, or the bottom, or the left. So see what happens when I click and I unclick over here when it's highlighted in the right, a new panel pops open. Or if I want it on the left up here, it opens up a new panel on the left. If you're following along, it's probably a lot easier to just play around with this and understand how to do it. You can resize, as I mentioned before. You can drag the tabs to the left or right to adjust the order of the tabs. Say I want audio track mixer before the effects controls, I can just drag it into the middle of those two panels. The goal with this lesson and moving into the next lesson is to set up your project to look like my setup right now. So you want your project panel with the effects, you want your timeline down in the bottom right, the program up in the top right, and then the source audio track mixer, not the audio clip mixer, the audio track mixer, and the effects controls up in the top left. To save this workspace so that if it ever gets messed up, or if you ever add new panels or open new panels but want to revert to this setup, go to Window, Workspaces, Save as New Workspace. Click that, and then name your workspace and click OK. I already have one that's set up like this. It's called Phil's Single Monitor. It's basically the same setup. Effects controls is in the middle rather than over to the right. But now, whenever I want to go back to that Phil's Single Monitor setup, I can just click that Phil's Single Monitor. And you can see that I have Sam, Will. These are friends who have used my computer, or I've opened projects on their computers, and it saves those workspaces as well. Thank you so much for watching. In the next lesson, we're going to learn how to import and organize our footage. Now that we have a little bit of a better idea of what these different panels are, let's go ahead and import our footage. I'm going to drag this up just a bit to make our project panel a bit bigger so we can see it more clearly. To import media, there's lots of different ways we can do it. We can double click just right within the project panel itself. We can go up to File, Import, or we can press Command-I on our computers. Command-I for Mac users, Control-I for PC users. I'm using a Mac, so whenever I say Command, you'll use a Control button on a PC. Another way is just to simply drag and drop your files right here. So let's do it a couple ways. Let's double click here. You'll find a resources folder. It's a zipped up folder that I've put together for you in the supplemental resources of this course. So you can unzip that and you'll see there's video clips, photos, music, and a LUT. We'll talk about all these things throughout the course, but let's start out with the video clips. To select one video clip to import, you can just find that one and click import. Or you can select multiple. I'm just selecting the top one and then pressing shift and clicking the last one to select multiple. Or if you have specific ones you want to import, you can command click, control click if you're on a PC, the ones that you want to import. I'm just going to select all of these and say import. So that imports all of our video clips to our project. Let's stay organized as we go. Let's create a new bin or a new folder by clicking this new bin button right here. You can also right click and say new bin, or you can press Command B, Control B for your Windows people. And then type in the name of this bin. I'm just going to call it video for now. Then I'm going to select all of these clips, selecting the top one, shift clicking the bottom one, and drag it into this bin or this folder. We can open and close these folders with the drop down toggle on the left hand side. An easier way to import a folder is to just drag and drop it in. So I'm going over to my Finder. I'm on my Mac, I'm pressing Command Tab. There's an option to do that. I think it's Control Tab to tab between your different applications you have open on your computer. And I can simply click my Photos folder and drag it into my project. And you can see now it has that Photos folder. It also has a music folder that I'm going to drag in. And this is all copyright free music that you can use. I found it on the YouTube audio library, which is a free to use music library for your video projects, commercial or personal projects. So these are all the files we'll import. We'll learn about the LUT later on. We can organize the video even further, or any of these files any further. I'm going to add a new bin and call it BRoll. BRoll is any of the video, photos, or graphics that you cut away to or you intercut with the main shot. For example, in a documentary, your main shot might be your interview, and then you might cut away to some action footage or some kind of video that describes more about what the person is talking about. And let me just open up these clips to show you what I'm talking about. So we have interview A and interview B camera. And these are the interview video clips. And then I have this B-roll, just extra footage that we shot that shows more about the person's life. It's the descriptor. It's just that additional footage. So I'm going to move all of this footage that's not the interview footage into a B-roll folder. Depending on how big my project is, I might have many B-roll folders. This is actually from a documentary I'm making, a short documentary about Anthony. And in the actual documentary project, I have B-roll folders for our street session, for his photo editing session, for when he was with his wife, all kinds of folders. And then I'm also going to add an interview folder to put this interview footage. The key with organization is that there's no set rules. I just want you to be organized so that you can find your footage when you're looking for it. And that's the key thing, to be able to find footage when you're looking for it. I try to keep my folder structure similar to how it is in my documents. So if you look at my Finder, you see I have music, photos, and video clips. And usually this is just called video actually, but I titled it video clips for this folder. And that's how I keep the structure of my project file in my project of Premiere Pro. And then sometimes I have a graphics folder, sometimes I have an audio folder if I have sound effects or voiceover or something like that. But for here, we just have music, photos, and video clips, and that's how we're going to keep it here in our project panel. We can rename these bins or these files if you would like. So say we want to add more description. So here's photo 1 and photo 2. We can rename it by just selecting it, pressing return on your keyboard, or it's the enter space on your keyboard if you're on a PC, and just typing in a new name. Photo of Anthony and Larnie, which is his wife, who is his wife, at beach. Beach, let me spell that right. Photo 2, open it up, and I'll rename this photo of Anthony and Larnie in front of building. So it depends on how much you want to get involved with renaming. Sometimes I won't rename files, sometimes I will. It just depends on how big the project is. Just a quick mention, a couple things you'll see in this project panel are these tabs. So we have the name, we have the frame rate. So this is the frame rate of the video that we shot. If I scroll to the left using this slider at the bottom, you can see lots more information. So you can kind of just see all of the different information we have for each of these clips, video clips or audio clips alike. That's how you import and organize footage. Please go ahead, if you haven't done so already, import the footage that I've included in the supplemental resources and organize it in a similar way. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next lesson. I want to show you the power of Adobe Premiere Pro by showing you how, with just a few clicks, you can change shaky, handheld DSLR style footage into smooth, buttery, or completely still, no motion video. Again, with just a few clicks. So let's dive into Premiere Pro. Download the bride and groom shaky video file that I've included in this lesson. Import it into Adobe Premiere Pro just like we learned last lesson. And then simply click that video clip and drag it onto this new item button. It's the one that looks like a post-it note. That creates a new timeline, a new sequence, which is basically a new video project or a video timeline within this project with your clip on it. We'll dive into this in the next section about all the sequence settings and stuff like that, so don't worry about that for now. I just want to show you how to stabilize this shaky footage. Go to your Effects tab. If you don't see that, go up to Window, Effects, and type in Warp into the search bar. You'll see two effects. Click the Warp Stabilizer effect and drag it onto the video clip in your timeline. It's going to start analyzing, and you'll see up in your Effects Controls window that pops up all these controls for different effects or different aspects of this clip. The one that we added is called Warp Stabilizer, and you'll see that it's starting to go through and analyze this clip. What it's doing is looking at it and seeing how can it make it smooth or stable. Once it's done, it will stabilize and you can play through it, and you can see that it already has created a very smooth version of this video clip, and I actually like that, so you might want to leave it at that. Or you can click from this result drop down and go from smooth motion to no motion. It's going to restabilize it. It might have to zoom in so that it can actually make it stable, and then play through it again, and you can see that it now is completely still. If I delete this, or if I turn this effect off by clicking the Effects Off button right there to the left of the effects name in the Effects Controls window, you can see shaky, turn it on, completely still. And that is the power of Adobe Premiere Pro. And we're going to be going through so many more cool effects and tricks like that that will take your video editing skills from beginner to advanced. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one. In this little bonus tutorial, I want to show you how to use the media browser to import video. Depending on what kind of camera you record with, you might end up with files that look like this. This is our footage shot on the Sony FS7 and the F15 and the AS7. So when you import it to your computer, you get this folder structure that looks kind of weird, and you can't tell, even when you dive into this menu under the clips, you can't even see what it looks like because they are these MXF files that your computer might not or naturally be able to open or preview. So in Premiere Pro, we're going to use the media browser, that's a new window, to look and import those files. And this is for the color correcting tutorial that we did earlier, because I wanted to bring in one of the raw full resolution files. So if I go to that folder that is within my external hard drive, let's see what happens when I find that folder of video clips. So it's under my dock, it's under raw footage, it's under A001, and it's, if I just click XD root, not even this clip folder, but just the XD root folder, it opens all of the video clips, and now I can preview which ones I want to import, and then I can right click and import, or I can drag into my actual project. So I'm going to just open up one of these interview clips, and so I can go ahead and show you how to color correct, which you probably have already watched. So I'm going to go back in time and do that. Thanks for watching. That's how you use the media browser to import footage. The next thing we're going to do is create a new sequence. To create a new sequence, I'm going to show you a very easy way right now, and then later on, I'll follow it up with more details. Pick the video that is going to be the most popular or the most used type of video in your sequence. For example, I have an interview clip. I also have B-roll that has all types of footage. While all of this footage matches, you might not have footage for your own project that matches the frame rate, the frame size. Maybe you have some 4K footage. Maybe you have some regular 1920 by 1080 footage. Pick the video clip that is going to be used the most. For me, it's going to be my interview clip. So I'm just going to take this clip and literally just drag it onto this new item button, this one that looks like a post-it note. What happens is a new sequence pops up, our footage is added to the timeline already, and the sequence settings for this timeline match our video clip. If you go up to sequence settings, you'll see all of the settings, the frame size, the frame rate, the audio settings. This matches your video footage, and that's what you want. You don't want a mismatch. So when you're choosing which video to use, just remember, use the video that's going to be used most in your video sequence. Now we have this timeline. Let's just go over the basic rules of what this timeline does. We have our video tracks up here, our 3 video tracks. Then we have our 3 audio tracks down here. We can move a video clip or audio clip around by dragging up or dragging down to a new track, or moving to the left or right. We see at the top we have our time. We have our timeline indicator that we can click and drag. This is this blue little line in there. We can zoom into our timeline. Down here we have the slider that slides along the timeline. At the end, if we click the end and drag in or out, we can zoom in. You can also press the plus or minus key buttons that are to the left of the delete key on a Mac or to the left of the backspace button on a PC, and that will zoom in and zoom out of your timeline. There are still a lot of buttons in this timeline that we haven't covered yet, but we will be covering all the things that you need to know throughout the rest of the lessons. Now, I mentioned before that this was the easy way to create a new sequence. If you think you've got it and you just want to know this easy way, you can go ahead and skip on to the next lecture and the next practice activity. But for those of you who want a little bit more information, let's get going. You can, instead of dragging into this new item button, just click New Sequence. You could also go up to File, New Sequence, and this will pop open the New Sequence module where you actually can choose the sequence settings yourself. There are 3 tabs: your sequence presets, settings, and tracks. The sequence presets, these actually have some presets for different types of cameras and different types of shooting that might match what you want. For example, maybe you shot with a digital SLR, a DSLR, and you shot at 1080, 24 frames per second. You might want to just select that preset. Maybe you shot on a RED camera. They have lots of different RED preset settings. So that's one way to do it. Or you can choose your settings yourself, customize it. go to the Settings tab, drop down to Custom under Editing mode. Then you can go through everything. The time base, what's your frames per second? 23976, 29997. Your frame size, 1920 by 1080, or is it 1280 by 720? Make sure that it matches how you shot your footage. Pixel aspect, fields, display, these will all stay the same. Audio sample rate, 48,000 hertz. That's typically what you want to choose. Display format, audio samples is good. Video previews, all of this will typically stay the same, except if you have a smaller frame size, say 1280 by 720, this will change as well to match your frame size. At the bottom, you can rename your sequence. So if you have a documentary version 1, you might want to call it that. And last is the tracks. This is where you number how many video and audio tracks you want. The standard is set to 3. We have 3 video tracks up here and 3 audio tracks. We can add audio tracks later on. It's very easy. I'll show you in just 1 second. When you're done and you're happy with your settings, just click OK. That will open up a new timeline right here. And the sequences also show up in your project panel over here. I mentioned adding new audio tracks and video tracks. When you have a video clip on your timeline, you can literally drag it up into the empty space above the tracks to create a 4th audio track or a 5th one or a 6th one. And same with the audio. I think I said audio before, but that was video. This is audio. So those are some more advanced tips for creating a sequence that has the perfect settings if you have something that you don't want to match your camera. Typically though, you want your sequence settings to match exactly what you shot as, so just do the easy way of dragging into this new item button. I'm going to show you why I clapped right there in the follow-up lesson. Today though, in this video, I want you to take action. This is a practice lesson of syncing up audio and video. A lot of times with modern cameras, you're shooting with a DSLR camera like what I'm doing right now, and it has a Rode VideoMic Pro microphone attached to it, but the audio from that mic isn't that great. You can hear now it's not as great as the boom mic, the Rode NTG3, which I'm recording with right now as well. So in this lesson, download the audio and the video clips. They're downloadable files attached in the resources. Go into Premiere Pro and sync up that footage yourself. I'm going to follow this up with a review lesson next showing you how I did it, but I want you to practice first. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, send me a message or post a question on the Q&A tab on the course, and we'll see you in that next lesson. Good luck. Let's review how you would sync the audio and the video. Hopefully you were able to do it yourself. I'll show you the easy way. We could just select both, right click, and then say synchronize, make sure we're on audio, and then click OK. Yeah, that does a pretty good job at syncing the audio and the video. I'm going to show you why I clapped right. Sounds pretty good. If we mute the video audio track for track 1 there in the follow-up lesson, just to get the Rode NTG3 audio, sounds really good, but it's not perfect. We have to go in and fine tune this. If we go in and zoom in as much as possible, I'm just pressing the plus button next to my delete key on my Mac keyboard. We can see from this clap that these aren't perfectly synced. It's off by half a frame or less than half a frame. But if we select the video or the audio and we try to nudge it forward or backwards, and I'm nudging it by pressing Command right arrow or left arrow, Control if you're on a PC, it never lines up perfectly. The way we fine tune audio is by going here on our timeline, saying Show Audio Time Units, which changes our clock up here and allows us to dive in even deeper. We can zoom in more now. You can see as I zoom in more, and we can then go and sync this footage. Notice though that when I try to click and move the video track to the left or right, it still only allows me to nudge it by 1 frame. See this plus pop up? And when I drag to the right, it's 1, 2, Those are frames that I'm moving it by. But if I click the audio, even just the audio from the video or the audio track, now I can move even more precisely. So I can zoom in here even more, make sure that this is aligned more properly, zoom out, and that looks pretty good. And now if I play through this, that's a perfect clap. Before it was off just by a little bit. So the next thing I would do, I'm just going to go back and turn off show audio time units. And then I'm going to disable the video audio. So I'm going to option click this video right here, or this audio for the video, right click it and uncheck enable. Then I'm going to link up the audio from the NTG3 to the video itself. So I'm going to select all, right click, and first say unlink, which unlinks the video from this audio. Then I'm going to select all again, right click, and say link. Now, if I take my razor blade tool and I want to make cuts, it happens to both audio tracks and the video, and it's all linked together. That's how I would sync this audio and fine tune it with that trick of showing the audio time units. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in another lesson. In this lesson, we're learning about all of our different editing tools over here so that we can edit our footage on our timelines in a very efficient way. That's the goal, is to make you efficient editors just like a pro would be. To learn how to do this, let's start a new sequence. I'm going to take some of my B-roll clips and add it to just a new sequence that we can work on. I'm going to take this cruising down street MP4 and just drag it onto a new sequence. Sometimes that pops up. It seems like it's asking you to add a completely new sequence. Just press cancel, and then it's already added this new sequence. So I'm just going to call this B-roll edits. Then I'm just going to take Cruising Down the Street 2, drag it on to the end. Then let's just do Working on the Chair, and maybe one more, photo of Anthony and Larnie. So I'm just have all 4 of these clips back to back. The entire clips are on there. So let's go through our tools. First is the selection tool, and whenever you hover over any of these tools, you see the keyboard shortcut, V for selection. This is your most popular tool. It's what you're going to use to select and move around. Sometimes this modifies to a different tool. For example, when you hover over in between a panel, it changes, so you can change the panel size. When you hover on the side of a clip on your timeline, it changes to the trim edit tool. What that is, it allows you to select a clip and drag the end point in, or the in point in or out. So now if we play through this, it gets cut off right there instead of going all the way to the end of the clip and cutting to that next shot. So just using the selection tool and the trim edits, you are able to edit these clips down. And one thing you can see when I actually am making that edit, when I have this selected and I drag in or out, you can see up in the program monitor, you can see where I am about to edit in or out. So say I want to edit before he gets to that truck. See right here? Maybe I want to edit the end right there. So now if I play through this, it goes and cuts right there before he rolls past that truck. There's different ways to get it to be at that point though. So let me just extend these sides. I'm going to skip over to this razor blade tool. Think of it as a razor where you can cut your clips up. So I can just cut around and it cuts the clips into different pieces. I'm going to undo that, just pressing Command Z on my keyboard, Control Z if you're on a PC. If I want to cut specifically at this frame right before he gets to the truck, I can take my razor blade tool and just trim right there. So now we have an edit right at that spot. I can go back to my selection tool, just pressing V on my keyboard, select this second part where he's going behind that truck, and delete it just by pressing delete on my keyboard on a Mac or backspace on a PC. Say I want to cut right there, but then go directly into this clip right here, which hasn't been color corrected to about this point. I can take my razor blade tool again, trim right there, take my selection tool, select this first part, delete it. Then I can select all of these clips or just this single clip and drag them over to the left to where they meet. You'll notice that a lot of the things I'm doing, it seems like there's like a magnetic touch. As soon as you get over to the left, it snaps into place. That's because I have this magnet snap button selected. And that's very useful, especially when you're making edits, when you want to specifically make a cut where your timeline indicator is with the magnetic snap button on. It will automatically help you edit to that point. It will help you move things specifically to that point. If I don't do it, if I don't have snap on, I have to eyeball it. I have to get it right there where they meet, and that's a little bit harder than with the magnetic snap tool on. So that's one way to move these clips all the way to the left. I'm going to move them back, and I'm going to show you a different way. You can click in this area between the clips and press delete on your keyboard, and that does a ripple delete. It's the same thing as going right click and choosing ripple delete. It deletes the space in between and it moves everything on the right side to the left. You can do a lot of edits with just those tools, just with the selection tool where you can choose the end of a clip or the beginning of a clip to drag in or out, and the razor blade tool. But Premiere Pro comes with some other tools that are even more helpful. I'm just going to get this back to where we were, where the entirety of all of these clips are on our timeline. One tool I want to talk about is the Ripple Edit tool, B on the keyboard. See what happens when I select that tool and I hover over the edge of a clip? When I'm not hovering over the edge of a clip, it doesn't look like it can do anything. It's not going to let me select anything. But if I hover over the edge of the clip, and I drag to the left, see what happens when I let go? All of the clips on the right automatically jump to the left. So it automatically does that ripple delete of that space that was between where before we had to delete it ourselves. This is just a one-step process. Same if we go to this next shot and we drag in to the point where we want, it's going to edit to that point and make all these clips jump over to the left. Let me show you what happens if we were to do that same thing without the Ripple Edit tool. So I just undid that, take my selection tool, drag in, there's that space right there. But with the Ripple Edit tool, it automatically will jump all these clips to the right over to the left. So now we have this edit right here to here. Got it? And this clip is not color corrected. You might be thinking, wow, why does that clip look so bad? We're going to learn how to color correct this footage in a future lesson. It's because we shot basically raw footage. That's what that LUT, that LUT file is all about. We'll learn about that during color correction. So that's the Ripple Edit tool. A quick way to get to the Ripple Edit tool, let me just zoom in a little bit further on my keyboard, is when we are hovering over our timeline with our selection tool, just press Command on your keyboard or Control if you're on a PC. See what happens now with Command selected? My selection tool becomes the Ripple Edit tool, that yellow tool. And when I select and drag in, it acts as the Ripple Edit tool. You'll notice when I have commands, I'm still pressing Command, there's this other tool. This is the rolling edit tool. It's red, it has 4 arrows. What this does, it will move this cut point to the right or left, and it will edit the left or right sides. So see what happens when I click this with the rolling edit tool and drag to the left? This first clip becomes shorter, and the second clip became longer. We could do that ourselves just with the selection tool by clicking with the trim edit tool and then clicking the second one and dragging it to meet it. But the same thing happens when we use the rolling edit tool, drag to the left, or when we have our selection tool selected and we press Command on our keyboard and we go in between when we see the red rolling edit tool highlighted and drag. There are two more tools that I want to go over really quickly, the slip tool and the slide tool. Let me just make this clip a lot shorter. I'm just going to make this clip very short right here. I'm just going to delete that space in there. I can just take my slip tool, Y on my keyboard, click on this clip, and then drag to the left. You can see that there's two videos popping up in the program monitor. The video on the left is where the video will start. The video clip on the right shows where that clip will end. So say we want to get him already rounding this current corner and end right there when he gets into the shadow of that tree. It's basically slipping this clip to the left, the timing of it, so it starts and ends earlier. Or we could slip back, dragging to the right, so it starts and ends later. I hope that kind of makes sense. I know it's a little bit confusing, but I think playing with these tools yourself, you'll start to understand what's actually going on. The last one is this slide tool. Say I have 3 clips in a row. If I select this middle clip and drag to the right or drag to the left, see what happens. It moves this clip to the left, it edits the first clip shorter, and it makes this third clip longer, or back to the right. So it's taking that middle clip and editing the clips around it, the first and the third clips in this sequence. The tools that I mainly use are the selection tool with the modifiers of the rolling edit and the ripple edit. This will make you a very efficient video editor. I want to show you one more thing back on our main sequence. I'm going to delete these 2 B-roll clips that we have just by selecting them and pressing delete on our keyboard. And same with this audio, selecting it, pressing delete, or backspace if you're on a PC. We have these 2 clips, interview A and interview B. If I take my, say, razor blade tool, and I go through this and we're listening and we find a good spot that we want, I can either make an edit to both clips by clicking one after the other, and then say we play through this and we really like this soundbite that he's saying right now, and then we stop and we want to take that selection again. Now we can, with the selection tool, take this selection and move it around, or take this first selection and delete it, whatever we want. But that was a 2-step process. I'm just going to undo that. So say, let's just open up this waveform again. I'm going to zoom in here on my keyboard. Say we want starting here to here for both clips. We can take the razor blade tool again. While we have it hovering over our timeline, press Shift on your keyboard, which makes it a razor blade tool that cuts everything on the timeline at this point. With the regular razor blade tool, it just cuts that track that you click on. With the Shift double razor tool, it cuts everything on the timeline. So it's just a faster way to cut everything, because you might have not only audio, you might have B-roll, you might have all sorts of other things, and you want to just trim everything at once. Another way to do this, there's always another way, so I hope you're sticking with me because this is really important. For this audio track, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to delete the B camera audio. So to select just the B camera audio versus the video, you have to Option click the audio. Alt click if you're on a PC. See, if you just click one or the other, it selects both the audio and the video. So if you press delete, it will delete both the audio and the video. But if we just want to get rid of this audio A, what we can do is press Option, click, and it just selects the audio track, whatever clip we select, and then delete it. Or we might not want to actually delete this audio track because we might want to save it just in case the audio from camera A gets messed up or something like that. It's just backup. We never really want to delete it. We can just right click, and you'll see again what I did. I actually just right clicked and it selected both the audio and video. What I'm going to have to do is Option right click and then check enable. What enable does is similar to what this toggle track on and off button does, but instead of turning on and off an entire track, it turns off just a single clip. So now the audio from camera B is off if we play through this, but it's still there in case we need to enable it later on. It's time to play a little bit around with this edit. What I want you to do before we start the next part of the project is go through this interview and find the parts that you want to save for your video. So this interview clip is 7 minutes long or so. The final project for this course is to have a 1 minute long video. And I know a minute might or might not sound long to you. A minute video for a lot of people is long nowadays. But when you have an interview like this, it is hard to kind of pick and choose the points that you want to edit. So go through the interview using the editing tools, make your selections, and cut it down to just 1 minute. So by the next lesson, you and I will have a sequence that just has 1 minute worth of video with both interview camera A and B, interview audio A on, and interview audio B off. And it's just going to look like a sequence like this, but it's going to have a bunch of edits, and it's going to be 1 minute long. Now in the next lesson, I'm going to jump ahead to adding B-roll and making a good sequence. But at the very end of this course, I'm going to put together a bunch of the longer lessons, including one where I walk through my entire editing process for finding the right audio clips for this interview. This is 7 minutes long. Anthony talks about a lot of different things, and it's interesting to see perhaps what you are going to create, what I want to create, what I think is important, what you think is important, or maybe it's not the most important thing, but just what you think would be interesting for a minute long piece. So if you want to see me edit this entire interview clip down to 1 minute, there will be a lesson later on in the course. I just am explaining that I don't want to put it in the very next lesson because some people might want to just do it themselves and jump onto the next lesson where we'll learn a little bit more. So anyways, I've talked about this long enough. Enjoy that lesson if you want, and we'll see you in the next lesson when we start adding more B-roll to our footage. Welcome back to the course. Maybe you watched the previous lecture in this section and were able to edit your interview sequence yourself, or maybe you watched the full-length editing section that I put later on in the course that got me to where I am today. Just to catch you up, we have an Anthony V1 sequence where I have 1 minute's worth of interview clips with both the A camera and B camera. In this video, we're going to add B-roll to our footage. So we have to decide where we want B-roll and what that B-roll is going to be. It's probably a good idea for you to look through the B-roll shots, see what all of them are, and look through the photos and see what they are as well. And you're free to go online and try to find your own B-roll, or you could even shoot your own B-roll if you think there's a shot that needs to be done. We are limited though with the B-roll that I've given you, and that's could be a problem if you want a specific B-roll shot, but it's also a good challenge to come up with a way to edit a video and make it look amazing without having every single shot that you would like to have. So going through my interview, we're just going to listen through it, and then we're going to see what we want to add to it as B-roll.
The same year I was diagnosed, that summer the whole ALS Ice Bucket Challenge phenomenon went viral.
So for this intro part, I'm not going to have any B-roll because I want to just jump right into his face, into seeing Anthony on camera to introduce him to the audience. We'll probably put a graphic lower third title, and we'll learn how to do that in the titles section of this course.
Everyone that I knew and their mama's baby's mama doing.
So you'll see that there is a little jump cut right here. We were trimming down the clip.
Everyone that I knew and their mama's baby.
And there's an audio sort of sounds like a glitch. We'll fix that with the transitions in the next couple of lessons. But here is a part where we want to add some clips of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I don't have the rights to other videos of other people, but you could, if this was an actual documentary you were making, you might want to get rights to other ALS Ice Bucket Challenge videos. Here we do have the clip that he gave me for my documentary of him doing the Ice Bucket Challenge. So without context, it's kind of weird. You see him in a bikini, but this is just for fun, just to be crazy, more wild out there, try to get more views. So I'm going to scan through this and just get to the parts where it's kind of funny. So we got a couple different shots, him talking, calling out Ellen. So if you're editing your minute-long piece and you're making it about him calling out Ellen, you might want to actually include the audio clip from him calling out Ellen right here. For me, I'm just going to take these shots and I'm just going to scrub through it, press the I for the endpoint, play through it, stop, press O for the out point, take the video only, and drag it down here. If I expand this track 3, I can see what this clip is, and this is good so that I know what's going on my timeline. I know what the video clips look like. I'm going to scrub through here even more, maybe get this funny part. Start where he starts to scrub the window, maybe while he's doing it, something like here. It's kind of funny, but make sure we end before it cuts to this other shot. Put this afterwards.
Viral. Everyone that I knew and their mama's baby's mama doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, dumping ice water over their head. Nobody talked.
And we're going to finish with this shot of ice water dumping over his head, matching what he's saying in the interview with what you're seeing.
Ice Bucket Challenge, dumping ice water over their head. Nobody talks
in the video clip
about this disease because it's us.
I think it's okay that this clip actually extends past where he stops that last line and continues this into this next thought.
Disease because it's ugly, you know, that doesn't go viral, but as soon as somebody does something random and fun, it goes.
If we have more video clips, it might be good to add some more ALS Ice Bucket clips right here.
Viral, and so that's what I did. First day I got 100,000 views.
Then for my edit, he starts talking about the virality of it, how it went viral, and he talks about the social media views. So we have a few social media screenshots that we're going to add. What I'm going to do is just select all of these just by selecting the top one, shift clicking the last one, drag it down here. I'm going to put them all on different layers though so that they end up going on top of each other. And when I do that, I'm adding extra layers. I'm adding a 6th video layer right now. And you can see when I add these, they're different shapes. They're too big, they're too small. We're going to have to edit the size and shape of these things later on. I just want to get them onto my timeline. I also want a white background. So see here on the edge of this video, we have the social media clip or the photo, but we see the edge of the shot from the interview. I don't want that. I want a white background. So what I will do is, let me just move this up. I will select all of these screenshots, move them up a layer or a video track. Then I will add a white background right here. I'm going to start a new graphics folder, or a graphics bin. So I'll call this graphics. And then in the graphics bin with it selected, I'm going to press the new item button, color matte. Choose the video setting size, which matches my settings right now for my sequence, so that's good. Then I have that color picker, and I'm just going to move down to white. If you want, you can change the colors with the hex code down here, or you can choose this eyedropper and then move anywhere in your video preview monitor, anywhere on your screen to select that color. So say I want to match the color of his skin, I could do that there. I'm just going to choose white. Then it asks me to choose a name. I'm going to call this white matte. Press OK. It appears in our graphics bin. Now I'm going to drag it onto my sequence. So now,
so that's what I did. First day I got 100,000 views.
We have these social media screenshots right here. We still have to edit them how I did in the original video where they slide on. That's a little bit of motion graphics that we'll learn a little bit later on.
And then the next day I got 1 million. For getting all this love and encouragement, it was just insane. The biggest thing to me,
and I'm just going to extend this white part right here.
Encouragement was just insane. The biggest
to after he says it was insane, to know that these clips will extend to that part.
Biggest thing to me meant that I wasn't alone. For a disease that literally will take away my...
Then when he talks about a disease that will literally take away his voice, let's show a picture of him and his mom. Both of them are diagnosed with ALS. Both of them are struggling to survive. So we're going to add this right here. I just drag and drop that photo.
A disease that literally will take away
right there. And you can see that it's too big and it's not in the right position. We'll learn how to edit that later on.
For a demographic of people that is small.
And then when he's talking about this more emotional stuff, let's take that video clip of him and his wife. Maybe a photo, maybe this shot where they're working in the chair. But I don't see his face in this shot. We had the reverse shot in the real documentary, but for here, let's just take one of these shots of them with the photo. So let's just select a little bit of this clip, putting in my in and out points, adding right here.
Demographic of people that is small and underserved, and
we could add this photo of him maybe with his Cure ALS car. That's kind of cool. So let's just take that. Maybe we'll put that before the video shot. So it goes photo,
people that
photo. You can see it's way zoomed in because that photo is really big. Maybe make the photo of him and his mom just a little bit bigger.
That is small and
right now I'm conceptualizing what this is going to look like. Even though it doesn't look like it here in our program monitor, we still have to make all kinds of adjustments to the size of these photos. I just am laying it down for later on.
The level of awareness that it's ever needed, this was huge for us. But we still need a lot more support. It was
I like seeing him look up at the camera where he says, but we still need a lot of support. Then we'll just finish on these shots of him cruising around town in his wheelchair, which I think is important, and it's powerful because he's talking about needing more support, and we're showing his life right now, him in a wheelchair, and he's 27 years old, still needs support, and that's what we're going to end on.
Still need a lot more support.
That might be something you want to start on too. You could start on one of these shots and then end on the other. That could be a cool way to bookend your piece. So now we have our B-roll laid out. We have the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge stuff. We've got the social media stuff. We've got the family stuff of him and his mom and him and his wife, and then him with this disease. In the next lessons, we'll learn how to manipulate these photos and graphics to make them the right size.